What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors out there and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. And deposit $25,000 more, and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So, from the way the market was moving, we saw this nice little pump that came out after TSMC announced their earnings, showing a very, very nice beat and high AI demand. Now, remember that they're also going to be involved in the semiconductor industry, which caused a nice little push in the markets in the morning, only to be followed by a bit of a dip, right? But the question now is, will the market dip more or is the market about to bounce? I think there's going to be a very, very big test tomorrow that's going to determine if that's going to be the case. And I'm going to break down what this test is going to look like. So, one thing that I just want to mention real quick is that when you look at the way SPY is moving, okay, if we go back just a little bit, you will see that we had a tendency of breaking these EMAs, right? And like I talked about yesterday, we love to hold particular EMAs acting as supports. So we have our 20 EMA, we touched this, bounced, touched it, bounced, bounced, bounced. We were holding it very nicely. We got some negative news, which led to a little bit of a dip, and we started to kind of like consolidate very close to our 50 EMA, the next support down there. So you guys could see the 20 and the 50 EMAs are two main supports for SPY. And then we basically came down close to it, we bounced, came close to it, we bounced. So far, we're holding it very nicely. So tomorrow, what's going to likely happen is there might be a small dip coming. We could get very close to where our 20 EMA happens to be. And if we lose that support, I expect there to be a bit of a rug pull. We could be dipping back down to where this very, very key 50 EMA is, returning back down to about the 577 area. But if we hold support near 581, this could attempt to rebound again and try to push to all-time highs. So there's going to be a big test at this key EMA tomorrow morning. Watch and see if we bounce off this or not. So far, we have a positive catalyst, which is Netflix earnings. So I'm going to break down more information about earnings and such before I break down more details about the charts. So tomorrow is going to be Friday, October 18th, 2024. Just know that at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bostic giving a speech. At 10 a.m., we have Kashkari, and then we have Waller giving a speech at 12:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. So expect some volatility with these Fed speakers. Whatever they say could affect the way the market views rates and what we're looking at. So be very, very conscious of that. On top of this, when it comes to earnings, just know that TSMC announced their earnings doing relatively well. And then Netflix announced their earnings and they also did well. The share price is up so far. So far, so good for earnings. Going into tomorrow, we have very, very minor ones like American Express and nothing too serious. So we'll see how things go. As far as Netflix goes, I just want to say that they beat their expectations as the third quarter subscribers have beat them. And then we also saw some nice growth. So when you look right over here, EPS was a beat at $5.40 above expectations. Revenue was at $9.83 billion above expectations. And paid memberships hit 282.7 million above expectations slightly. On top of this, net income was not bad whatsoever. And then when it comes to their overall guidance, they are telling us that for Q4, we have some big events coming out, such as the second season of the hit show Squid Game, not to mention lots of sporting events such as boxing matches and then 2 NFL games. So big stuff coming out for Q4. Their guidance for 2025 is not bad whatsoever. I think that this is a lot more exciting for investors as we're seeing improvements, and they're trying to once again look into different things such as new initiatives. So good news, very, very nice guidance, good earnings. That's why the share price is up almost 5%, and there is more upside potential. This is more positive for tech. Now, there is one more thing I wanted to just mention to everyone, and that's the fact that when we look at our very important data for the options chain for tomorrow, just remember that there's about 780,000 of these calls expiring, and we have over 2.95 million of these puts expiring. We have a 567 put to call ratio. That is a 567 is max paying, excuse me, guys, and then 3.76 is the put to call ratio. Excuse me about that, guys. But I just want to say that that's very, very exciting, very, very important. Right now, the majority of positions are in puts. So are we about to see a squeeze as we sometimes do on Fridays, or something that's very different about to happen? So what can I tell you about the chart? Well, one thing worth mentioning is that the trend is bullish, right? We came down to this low, we came up, made a higher low, came up, made a higher low, higher high, continue to break up. So this is still suggesting that this is going to kind of like dip and bounce as the most likely possibility. So basically, our main support is 581. This is going to be close to the 20 EMA. If we lose this, this thing is going to be dipping back down to these lows right here around 578 to 577, closer to the 50 EMA. Then we could attempt to bounce off that. But if we don't lose this, if we don't end up losing 581, we just rebound thanks to Netflix earnings, this imbalance would attract us back up towards 584.7 and eventually 586 to the all-time high. My gut is telling me that because we're on an uptrend, because Netflix's earnings went well, and because there's so many puts expiring, the odds are favoring that we kind of dip a bit and try to rebound. And there could be an attempt to push higher back up towards these highs as the most likely case. Now, this does not mean the market's going to last forever at these high levels because we still have a triple bearish divergence that's developing, which could cause a big dip later on. But for now, the charts remain bullish and they are favoring the upwards direction. For ES, we're looking a little bit more bullish as we're holding our key supports. So I was talking about this yesterday in my video that ES is doing a good job at holding up. Notice how it was bouncing, and then it came very close to bouncing off its 20 EMA, so it reclaimed it very nicely. So if we lose 58.82, we have support down here near our imbalance towards 58.56. If we lose that support, the 20 EMA, we're looking for a big dump. If we hold 58.82, we're looking for a rebound for basically the 5900 area, followed by 5925. My gut tells me that since we're holding above our 20 EMA, the odds favor us trying to rebound, and an attempt for the 5900s is likely coming for more potential upside. So this is still favoring upside, so we'll see how things go, but so far we're doing a good job. For other factors out there, we have Nvidia. Nvidia has this gap down here to fill, but we're holding up nicely, especially thanks to TSMC giving us some good earnings, not to mention Netflix. So I think what's going to happen is we could dip a little bit more towards the 136 area before we try to rebound. And then this imbalance up here could attract us to go a little bit higher. So if we hypothetically lose 137, don't hold it. Look for 135 as the main support at the 20 EMA. We have to hold this to remain bullish. If we lose that, there's a risk of us dumping all the way down towards the lower 130s. If we hold we kind of like dip and then bounce and get back above 137. We're looking for an attempt to get back up to 140. So far, the chart's looking more bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. So this is favoring a little bit of a dip and a bounce for that 140 area as the most likely case. But watch 137, 135 as supports just to be safe. So far, Nvidia remains more bullish. For Bitcoin, we're trying to hold our 20 EMA at 66,500. If we lose that tomorrow morning, we're looking for a target of 65,900 or below. If we hold this, we're looking for a rebound and a move back up to 68,000. My gut tells me this might dip a little bit more to retest our 20 EMA, then this could rebound for 68,000. So look for a dip and a bounce on Bitcoin as the most likely case. As far as Tesla goes, we're also consolidating right over here. If we end up losing basically 219, this dips back down to 217. If we hold above 220, we're looking for a target of 223. My gut is telling me the 20 EMA may be tested again, so we could attempt to rebound for 223. And that's going to be one of the most likely cases, in my opinion. So I think Tesla has potential. We'll see if we get that rebound, and we're doing a good job thus far. For NQ, we have resistance around 20,400 and supports at 20,362. We will see which way this ends up going, but just know that if we break past 20,400, we're looking for a pushback up towards 20,500. And if we lose support here, we could be dipping back down. Overall, we're doing a good job as we're range bound, but I think the odds are favoring this is going to try to push thanks to Netflix's earnings for the 20,500 targets. Now, I do want to call out that even if we do attempt to rebound a bit, to be bullish, you really need to break past 20,600 because there's a possibility we have a high here. We came down, we made a lower high. So if we end up coming back up only to about 20,400, we come short, there's going to be a risk of us kind of like dipping right back down. So I'll be watching to see how things end up going. I just want to make it very, very clear with how this is moving. Look for a little rebound, and we'll see if we make a lower high or not. There's going to be a very, very big test on NQ nonetheless. For the QQQ, this has potential to try to rebound with the inverse head and shoulders like structure. However, watch to see how we end up moving. If we don't hold above the 20 EMA, if this rejects off 492 and we don't hold that, we're looking for 489 as our target. If we break that, we're looking for basically 494. So I think that there's a good chance we try to rebound for 494. In my personal opinion, I just want to say that with the inverse head and shoulders like structure, this is favoring trying to push for 494. And we'll see if we reject off that or not, because just like NQ, there could be a high here. We could be coming down, making a lower high, and we'll see how this ends up moving. For Apple's also in a very similar boat, had a high up here, came down, made a lower high. So look for a test of 231. If that fails us, we're going back down to 229. And those holes we could attempt to rebound. We're going to dip a little bit more to 231 to 230 before it attempts to rebound, most likely. But I see some consolidation coming, and I think that volatility is slowing down as volume is slowing. So volume is slowing down for Apple. Might see some consolidation tomorrow. Now for Netflix, we're looking more bullish, got a nice balance breaking above our key EMAs after we got a nice earnings report. This suggests that as long as we don't lose 710, I could be looking for 736 to be retested. For CELH, I think this is doing a good job as well. If we break 33.2, we're looking for a nice little rebound attempt for basically 36.6. And if we end up rejecting right over here, we're looking for a move back down towards that 30 area. So I think that this is going to attempt to push for 33 tomorrow. But look at the trend. We had a high here, came down, we had a lower high. So it might be pushing for a high before it rejects. So be careful once we hit 33. For Palantir, we're doing a good job at holding up as we have this nice looking wick that's forming. We have resistance at 42.24 and we have support at 41. My gut tells me this might attempt to push for 42.24 tomorrow morning. If we break that, we're looking for a bigger push closer to about just under 43.5. So look for a little rebound and we'll see how things end up going. So be very patient. For Supermicro, Supermicro is basically at 47.8. If we don't hold above that, we're looking for 46.5. If we do hold above this, we're looking for 15 as our next target. So we'll see how things go as we're making higher lows. We could dip closer to about 46.5 before it tries to rebound for 49. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For Rivian's on a bit of a downtrend so far. I just want to say that we're struggling to hold above our 20 EMA, and we have 10 as our support. So I think that we're just kind of getting sandwiched between our support at 10 and then this resistance at 10.24. So we might see a lot of choppy price action between 10 and 10.24 is the most likely case. For SoFi, we're looking for basically 9.69 as our support. If that fails us, we could be dipping back down to this imbalance, taking us down to 9.15. If we break past 10, we're looking for a push. My gut tells me it might hit 10 before it starts dipping back down lower for the 9.5 target. For others out there, we have the IWM Russell 2000. We have 227 as our resistance and then 225 as our support. I think that this is showing some weakness right here. It might tip a little bit. We might be looking for a retest of 225 or a little bit below that before it attempts to rebound. 223.8 to 224 is going to be the main support. So it might dip close to that before it attempts to rebound off our key EMA. For AMD is making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, looking a little bit more bearish. We tried to gap up only to reject, so it still looks kind of weak here. If we don't hold above 155, I think the odds favor is coming down to fill the gap towards 150. So there's going to be a risk of downside on AMD, so please keep that in mind, guys. Look for a pop and drop as the most likely move. Tomorrow morning, it might rebound a bit for 158, but if we can't get back above 160, the odds favor this rejecting and eventually making its way down to the 150 area over the next couple of days/week. For ARM, we're making a high followed by a lower high. So we'll have to see if we could break above 153.5. If we hold above this, we could attempt to rebound for 158. But if we don't break the high here, it could just be kind of like a pop and drop like move, and we could slowly continue to decline. For Coinbase, we are looking like we're slowing down a bit after a monstrous pump that happened over the last couple of days. So please keep that in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit 208 again and then reject and start dipping closer to about 200 flats. There might be a dip towards 200 that's coming, so be very conscious of that. For Amazon, we're just stuck in the middle, kind of consolidating right over here. We're looking at basically 186 as our support. If that fails us, we're looking for 185. And if we hold above this, we could be looking for 189. I think that Amazon could be attempting to push up for 189 after the nuclear news came out, which I went over this in the morning. So maybe an attempt for us to try to push back up towards this 189 area. For Meta is on a bit of a downtrend. We had a high up here, came down. We had a lower high, came down. So look at this resistance around 581 to 584. We could push a little bit higher towards that resistance before it comes back down. We have this imbalance down here around 571. So my gut tells me this kind of pushes then rejects as the most likely case. So Meta still looks kind of bearish to me. I think it might push a little higher tomorrow morning for about the 581 to 583 area. But if we can't get back above 585, the odds do favor just kind of dipping back down and retesting the lows from yesterday. So be very, very conscious of that. For Microsoft is doing a decent job, but it's just very, very choppy right now. It's very much just consolidating, not really doing a whole lot. So just keep that in mind, guys. There's really a whole lot that's going on with Microsoft. So we have this resistance to watch for at 418, followed by 421. We have support at 417. I think what's going to happen is we could pop for about the 418 area, get close to 420, then dip back down towards 416, just continue to trade sideways as the most likely case. So we'll see how things go from there. For Google, we're kind of dipping a bit. We have this resistance to watch for around 165, and then we have support all the way down here around this 164 area. And if that fails us, we could be dipping back down towards 163. So we will see. It looks a little bit weaker. There's a possible head and shoulders, like a left shoulder here. There's like a head up there, then a right shoulder. So it might attempt to rebound for 165 tomorrow morning. But if we can't break through that, there's a risk of this dipping down to this imbalance, taking us down to 163. Also notes that we're looking a little bit weaker here. We're making lower highs. So there's a risk of us dipping lower if we don't end up holding our key support. So we might be looking for a retest of 165, then a rejection as the most likely case. And we'll see how things end up going from there. For DJT is riding our 20 EMA very nicely. It could be testing 28.36 as support before it tries to rebound for 32. If we lose 28.36, though, there's a risk of us coming back down towards 26 flat. So watch to see if we get a little bit of a dip and what kind of reaction we get from there. For the VIX, we're looking a little bit more bearish. We're continuing to fall right here. We need to reclaim 20 or else this is going to continue to dip lower. It's possible this dips a little bit more as the market tries to rebound, but then we'll see if the VIX gets a big bounce because overall the VIX is still holding up decently. So we came down to fill this first gap so far. Let me just call out one more thing. The VIX still has this big gap over here. I know it's a little hard to see, so let me just try to zoom in a little bit. Do you guys see this giant gap up here? This is going to take us to about the 36 area, almost 40 area soon. So it's possible the VIX gets a breakout, possibly approaching the election, maybe after the election. We'll have to see about that. But there is a risk of that upside potential, which means the market is going to get that rug pull soon. Could it happen tomorrow? I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. It could take, a couple of weeks, could take a month or two for the market to really get that correction. So it doesn't make sense to turn into like a perma bear yet. It doesn't make sense to just say the market's going to crash. Let's just short the hell out of the markets, right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that because we're waiting for confirmation, and the market could still go higher. We're not ready yet, so that's why you want to be very, very careful with moves like that. So be very mindful of that. The 10-year Treasury yield is also trying to push right here. If this continues to push to fill these gaps, that could be bearish for the markets. And the dollar index is also on a big breakout to the upwards direction. So with this bullish divergence, I think that this is attempting to pump. We have an imbalance above around this 104 area, so we'll see if we try to fill that imbalance. But overall, it's doing a pretty darn good job. With the dollar trying to push like this, I think that there's a good chance that it still looks bullish. It's not really affecting the market as much as it has in the past. This either signifies that it's not affecting the markets or it's going to signify that there's going to be a pullback coming later on. So we'll just have to wait and see. So we're going to be very, very patient with that, at least, nonetheless. So with that being said, what is my view for the market moving forward? I think that there's a very, very good chance the market could dip and then try to bounce. There's a lot of options expiring, so don't be surprised if there's manipulation. It's very simple to play this chart. Lose 581 tomorrow. If we don't hold above it for more than 4 hours, we're likely going to be dipping much lower. And if we manage to bounce off that, there's going to be a big rebound back up towards the imbalances above, very close to 585. So we'll see which way we go. The best thing to do is be very, very patient with the way the market's developing and to really keep your head calm no matter what ends up happening. So that's the reason why I always tell you guys to not be too fixated on just one direction, not try to be too biased. When you day trade, remember this, okay? Don't let your biases get the best of you. Be very adaptive. Be able to flow and let your environment kind of dictate what is you're going to end up like doing. So, regardless of what happens, what you want to do is look for the direction and be prepared for anything. Although the chart favors a little bit of a dip and then a bounce as the most likely case, especially as there's so many puts expiring. Always be conscious of the fact that the market could be very tricky and full of manipulation on Fridays. Fridays are known for high manipulation, so be prepared for that. With that being said, have a great day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to report what I see, at least for the markets. Until then, have a great day and peace out.